In this video, we got another episode of the Start Bench Cut series. Basically, what you guys will do is go to my Twitter at x7tanaka, and once I ask for this tweet, you guys will let me know 3 players down below. For example, Noodles said Tim Thomas, Dolph Schayes, and Bob Nedelecki at the power forward position, and I'll have to tell you guys which card I would start, which card I would bench, and then which card I would cut as well between the 3 different players. If you guys also want to let me know in the comment section down below on the YouTube video, let me know 3 players down below, and I'll tell you guys which player I would start, which player to bench, and then which player I would cut. Before the YouTube video here, first one, like I said, is gonna be from Noodles. We got Tim Thomas, Dolph Schayes, and Bob Nedelecki. Now this one is an interesting one because Tim Thomas is mainly a small forward. At least that's his primary position and where most people run him. I would say Bob Nedelecki is probably going to be starting though. I would bench Tim Thomas and then cut Dolph Schayes. I think at the power forward position, I would much rather a guy like Bob Nedelecki because of his defensive stats and badges. I think he's probably better than Tim Thomas at the power forward spot, but then I would say Tim Thomas is probably a little bit better than Dolph Schayes because Tim Thomas is 6'10" compared to Dolph Schayes only being 6'8". So for this one, I would say start Bob, bench Tim Thomas, and then cut Dolph Schayes. Next one here from Kerr, he says Kareem, D-Rob, and Duncan at the center position. Now this one is pretty straightforward for me. I mean, maybe it's a little bit interesting, but D-Rob is definitely going to be starting. I think he's the best center in the game. But at the bench and the start, I mean, it's really obviously it's between Tim Duncan and Kareem, but I think it's very close. I think I'll say Kareem bench and then cut Tim Duncan, but I do think Tim Duncan is still a very good center. But for this one, I would start D-Rob, bench Kareem, and then cut Duncan. Shea, D-Mitch, and Gilbert Arenas. This one is very interesting. I mean, Gilbert Arenas really isn't the best, so it's between Shea and D-Mitch. For me, though, I would start Shea, bench D-Mitch, and then cut Gilbert. Gilbert just really not on the same level as guys like D-Mitch and Shea. Another one from Rad Guy, he says Porzingis, Bam, and Boogie. I'm assuming he means at the center position. This one is interesting once again because Porzingis easily the best center and the guy I would start. Bam and Boogie, I mean, Bam's just not really good at the center position. I mean, maybe he's better than a guy like Boogie, but I would say probably start Porzingis, bench Boogie, and then cut Bam. Bam's just way too small to play that power forward position. So for me, I would start KP, bench Boogie, and then cut Bam. Dr. J, Terry, and Luol Deng at the 2. A very close one between Dr. J and Terry Dishinger. I think Luol Deng is definitely going to be getting cut, not because he's a bad shooting guard, but just because Terry Dishinger and Dr. J are just so much better and just the best shooting guards in my team. So I do want to kind of compare the cards, but of course 2KDB doesn't want to load when I try to record the video, but I do think Dr. J and Terry Dishinger are very, very close in skill level. I mean, I think Terry is a little bit better because he's got a faster jump shot, he's got better dribble sigs, and he does have the normal leaner as well. So for me, I would start Terry, bench Dr. J, and then cut Luol Deng. Next one here is going to be from Christopher. He says, let's do power forwards, Bob Nedelecki, Sean Kemp, or Dolph Schayes. For me, this one's going to be super easy. Start Bob Nedelecki, bench Dolph Schayes, and then cut Sean Kemp. I do think Sean Kemp is a really underrated power forward and a very good power forward as well, but he's just not on the same level as the 2 best power forwards in the game, which is Bob Nedelecki and Dolph Schayes. I really wish my 2KDB would load so I could kind of compare these cards, but for this one, like I said, start Bob, bench Dolph Schayes, and then cut Sean Kemp. Shooting guards, Dr. J, Kazi, or Terry. This one is very close as well. I mean, these are the 3 best shooting guards in my team right now, and you could really go whichever way you wanted to with this. For me personally, though, I do think it comes down to preference. So for me, I would start Terry, bench Dr. J, and then cut Kazi. Kazi is very good on the offensive end, except he's 6'5" at the shooting guard position. So even though his stats defensively really aren't that bad, I just don't think at the shooting guard spot he's on the same. I mean, he's on the same level as guys like Terry and Dr. J, but I'm just gonna barely give that bench spot to Dr. J, and then I'm gonna cut Kazi, Russell, Dono, which is Donovan Mitchell, Trey Young, and then Gilbert. 3 small point guards, which I definitely like to see. Like, I like to kind of compare the small point guards, but Trey Young is absolutely terrible, so he is 1000% getting cut. Donovan Mitchell, I think, is one of the best point guards in the game, and Gilbert's not terrible, but I wouldn't say he's a great point guard, so I'd probably say definitely start Donovan Mitchell, bench Gilbert Arenas, and then cut Trey Young. For me, I just really don't like that Trey Young card. He can't play defense and can't dunk the basketball. Braun, Nedelecki, which is Bob Nedelecki, and then Tim Thomas at the power forward. A very interesting one between Braun and Tim Thomas. I mean, Nedelecki easily going to be the starting one because he's the best power forward in the game. Tim Thomas between Braun and Braun. I mean, it's got to be Tim Thomas just because, yes, Braun might be a little bit better defensively, but Tim Thomas is 6'10", so taller at the power forward spot and just so much better on the offensive end. So for this one, I would start Bob Nedelecki, bench Tim Thomas, and then cut LeBron. We got a bunch of here from Flea, so I'm just going to kind of go through them just in case maybe you guys have the same questions and you guys can see. So I'm not going to really explain too much for each one, but just give you my start, bench, cut, because I've already done a couple of these as well. So I would start Terry, bench Dr. J, cut Kazi. For power forward, I would start start Bob, bench Dolph, and then cut AD. For point guard, I would start Don Ole, bench Shea, and then cut D-Mitch. For small forwards, I would start Tim Thomas. And now this one is actually very interesting. Definitely start Tim Thomas. He's the best card in the game, but at the small forward position, Cincy and Braun is a very close debate that, once again, I wish I could actually show you guys on 2KDB, but it's been kind of lagging. It's not really loading today, but I do think Braun and Cincy is very, very close at the small forward position. Braun gives you a little bit more height, a little bit more wingspan, where Cincy is, you know, a little bit faster, at least it seems on the court because of his dribble sigs. He moves a lot better. Defensively, it's very, very close. For me, though, I like to give the edge to Cincinnati's pal, so I would start Tim Thomas, bench Cincy, and then cut Braun, but I think Braun and Cincy is a very close debate. And then at the center position, D-Rob, Reem, and Duncan, it would pretty much be in that order. I think I already had that one asked, so I would start D-Rob, bench Reem, and then cut Tim Duncan. This one is very interesting at the point guard position, KPJ, Trae Young, and Derrick Rose. Now, is it crazy to say start Kevin Porter Jr., bench Derrick Rose, and Trae Young? I think KPJ is the best point guard here. I know Derrick Rose is a really good rim runner. Once again, I wish I could show you guys the stats, but Derrick Rose is a really good rim runner. He's just not going to be great on the defensive end, and KPJ is 6'6" at the point guard spot compared to a 6'1" Trae Young and a 6'3" Derrick Rose. So this one might be a little bit surprising, but I'm actually going to start KPJ, bench Derrick Rose, and then cut Trae Young. Pink Diamond, John Wall, Shane, Donovan Mitchell. For me, this one I guess could be pretty close between Donovan Mitchell and John Wall. For me, though, it's easily start Shea, one of the best point guards in the game, 6'6" with a great jump shot. Between John Wall and Donovan Mitchell, though, very, very close. I would take the edge to Donovan Mitchell for me personally. I know a lot of people would probably say John Wall because he's a little bit taller and probably has a better jump shot, but for me, I think D-Mitch actually plays better defense and is a better rim runner as well. So for me, I would start Shea, bench D-Mitch, and then cut John Wall. Bam, Kemp, and AD, I think are all very, very close power forwards and kind of all in that same tier at the power forward position. For me, though, I think it's really between Kemp and AD for that starting position. And if you really want a card that has a better jump shot and is a better offensive card, I think you go with Shawn Kemp starting. If you want more of a defender, better wingspan, height, kind of that type of stuff, I would go with Anthony Davis. So for me, I would go start AD, bench Shawn Kemp, and then cut Bam. I think Bam and Kemp are very close at the power forward spot. I just think Shawn Kemp's going to be a little bit better. Dolph, Bob, and AD. I think I've had this one before, but it'd be start Bob, bench Dolph, and then cut AD. Probably the three best power forwards in the game beside Giannis, but definitely start Bob, bench Dolph, and then cut Anthony Davis. Jared Wallace, Worthy, and Thurl. A very interesting one. I'm assuming you mean at the small forward position. I don't think it's crazy to say start Jared Wallace. Like, once again, I wish I could show you guys Jared Wallace's stats because he's actually very nice at the small forward position. Yes, he's only 6'7", but still going to be a very good small forward. I would start Jared Wallace, and then between James Worthy and Thurl Bailey, I think it's close. I think Thurl Bailey is probably the better card just because he's so much better at the power forward spot. But I think at small forward, I would give the edge to James Worthy. So start Jared Wallace, bench James Worthy, and then cut Thurl Bailey. Next one is Donald, D-Mitch, and Curry. Once again, this one is interesting because if you like Curry and you know how to use Curry and you're good at 3-hunting with him, Curry could possibly be the best point guard here. For me, though, I'm not a great 3-hunter with Curry, and I like my point guard to be better going to the basket and a better defender than a guy like Curry. So I'd say start Don Ole, bench D-Mitch, and then cut Curry. Bailey Howell, Thurl Bailey, and Cincinnati's pal at small forward. This one I think is definitely close, but it's definitely start Cincinnati's pal. He's one of the best auctionable small forwards, probably the best auctionable small forward in my opinion, over a guy like LeBron. Off the bench, I think it's going to be Bailey Howell, and then cutting Thurl Bailey. I think Thurl Bailey is definitely nice at the power forward spot, just going to be a lot worse at the small forward position. Now, next one from Corey here is actually the three best point guards in my opinion, which is going to be Shea, Don Ole, and Penny. I'd say for this one it's definitely close, but I would start Don Ole, bench Penny Hardaway, and then cut Shea. I think Shea is really nice, but just not on the same level as guys like Don Ole and Penny Hardaway. Next one we've already done, AD, Bam, and Kemp. Glenn Rice, Ray Allen, and Pippen. I'm assuming you mean for the small forward spot. I mean, Ray Allen and Glenn Rice are primary shooting guards, like they should play the shooting guard spot. Pippen at small forward is probably the best just because he's the tallest and has the best defense. So for this one at small forward, I would say start Scottie Pippen, probably bench Glenn Rice, and then cut Ray Allen. I just don't think Ray Allen is tall enough and has good enough defensive stats to play that small forward position. Opal Curry, Opal Mitchell, and Don Ole. I think I already did this one. It would start Don Ole, bench Donovan Mitchell, and then cut Curry. Utah and Splash. Okay, John Isaac, Thurl, and Paulo. I'm assuming you mean at the small forward. Yeah, small forward position. This one is actually interesting. I would say Paulo Banchero starting, bench Jonathan Isaac, and then cut Thurl Bailey. Actually, I'm going to bench Thurl Bailey over Jonathan Isaac. I'm going to say start Paulo, bench Thurl Bailey, and then cut Jonathan Isaac. Clyde, Butler, and Jordan. Finally, a different one at shooting guard. This one's actually very, very close because they're all great defenders. I mean, not Clyde, but Jimmy and Jordan are definitely great defenders. I would say start Jordan though. He gives you amazing all-around defense and all-around one of the best cards in the game, at least stats and badges wise. Has a slow jump shot, but besides that, a great all-around shooting guard. Between Jimmy Butler and Clyde, I've always gave the edge to Jimmy Butler just because of his defense. So I think a defense, so I'm just going to stick with that and go Jordan starting, bench Jimmy Butler, and then cut Clyde Drexler. Last one here, guys, is going to be Lonzo Ball, Donovan Mitchell, and Magic. I think this one really comes down to playstyle. And this one, I'm actually glad to say this till the end because people are going to flame me for this. I'm just going to say it and end the video. Donovan Mitchell, Lonzo Ball, and Magic Johnson.